let's get to the very heart of the matter. The Academic Staff Union of Universities, well, they've started their agitation, and this is a familiar territory. But in the last 2 years, the government has been able to manage the situation. Whether they are losing grip of the internal management so that this doesn't escalate is another kettle of fish, given the protests we've seen across board. That's why we've been joined by the man who speaks for the union, the president of ASUU, Professor Chris Piwana. He joins us virtually. Prof, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much and good morning.
You know, ASUU issues and the government and the agreement is almost like a recurrent decimal. I remember when it was a big thing, when strikes was literally every other period in the year, and we did an analytics, found out that I think since 1999 or so, maybe in the neighborhood of over 4 years, if you put the number of days ASUU went to strike in this Fourth Republic, about 4 years plus, is the number of years has been lost to industrial action. But as everybody has alluded to the fact that this has been managed fairly under this administration, what's now happened? What went wrong? Why did ASUU now say, okay, gloves off, we're no longer taking this anymore?
Well, thank you very much. Like you said, we've been at this for such a long time, and we have, in our view, always demonstrated patience, understanding, and have adopted dialogue to try to address these issues. Fast forward, since democracy started in 1999 to now, people are quick to say ASUU has been on strike on so number of times, schools have been closed, and you wonder what government itself thinks about these actions. When this government came into power 2.5 years or so ago, we had engaged them. This is the second Minister of Education since the advent of this administration. We engaged Professor Tahir Mamman over these issues. We've engaged this current minister, Dr. Tunja Lausa, over these issues. And it appears as if the machines, you know, of government work extremely slow. And we've heard that over and over again. And we say to ourselves, why can't you make it more efficient? Why can't you make the government more responsive to these issues? But it is what it is that they say it's slow, but we think that we have demonstrated enough patience. We've kept the schools open. And let me just make this point. Government, yes, they have tried to keep the schools open. They point at the 50 billion naira EAA that has been paid to us, members of ASUU. 40 billion out of it was given to us across federal public institutions. They point at it as one of their achievements. They very recently, as at yesterday, the minister also informed that they have gotten release for 50 billion revitalization fund. But what Nigerians do not know, and what the government fails to say publicly, is that the 50 or 40 billion naira EAA that was given to us was at the expense of about 60 billion naira that we give up. Our EAA earned payments, work that we have done, amounted to about 103 billion naira, around that figure. We gave up half of it to ensure stability. Half of our earnings, 60 billion. We told government, yes, we agree. Over the years, there is no strike action that the issue of EAA was not on the table. We also want to ensure stability and exit this EAA palaver. So we are ready to part with half the amount of money that our members have earned to ensure stability. So this 40 billion naira they have given us, it is because we have given up 60 billion of our pay to ensure stability. So when they say, oh, they have given EA, they have paid EA, that point also has to be made. The issue of revitalization that just yesterday Minister informed, and we thank him for his efforts, that 50 billion has been released to revitalize public universities. Very good. But this is a country that was pushed to go into the needs assessment in 2011, 2013, and we discovered how bad, how dilapidated, how empty our laboratories were, and how students were standing for lectures, inadequate lecture halls. We made the case for it. And we agreed with government that to turn around the facilities in our universities, to upgrade our universities, we needed about 1.3 trillion naira. Goodluck Jonathan released about 200%. Goodluck Jonathan released about 220 billion naira. Since then, it has been drops of 10, 20 billion here, 30 billion there. But, well, they've made those releases. So even the revitalization, it's as a result of the efforts of the Academic Staff Union of Universities. We just imagine that if we had not put pressure on government over these years to make sure these things are done, perhaps our universities today would have gone the way primary schools in this country, public primary schools have gone, or even secondary schools. And so when we decided to embark on this protest, it was again an effort by the Academic Staff Union of Universities through our branches, our congresses. We had a meeting about a week ago in Sokoto, and we took reports from all our branches across the country. Majority of our branches had opted for a strike action. That is what our members wanted. Right. But we discussed, as it is our culture, we discussed and arrived at the decision that rather than embark on a strike action, let us again give this government a chance. And so we decided that the way we can give the government a chance is to let them know that we have the capacity, we are ready, we are willing to embark on an action, but we intend to give them more time to resolve these issues. And so we decided to embark on a nationwide protest, federal and state universities. ASUU has just one charter. And so whatever happens to a state university happens to a federal university. Whatever is going on that is negatively impacting on the federal university also would affect the vice versa, federal or so. Every public university in Nigeria, had this protest, this rally yesterday. Right. And what are the issues? The issues are our 2009 agreement. Right. And let me make this point. This 2009 agreement that we keep talking about, it is not the agreement that was signed in 2009 that is before government. What is before government now are several reviews that we arrived at collectively through collective bargaining with the government representatives. So in 2017, we sat with government representatives and reviewed the 2009 agreement. That didn't yield much. Another committee was set up, headed by Professor Munzali Jibril, to review what was reviewed by Babalaki. We reached a draft agreement with Professor Munzali Jibril. Government did not implement it. Again, government set up a committee headed by late Emeritus Professor Nimi Briggs. We looked at that document, arrived at an understanding, a draft agreement with government. The government still did not implement that agreement. They set up another committee now, headed by one of the most brilliant technocrats in this country, experienced, well-exposed Alhaji Ayale Ahmed, who had seen most of these agreements through. He was in the Ministry of Education in the 90s. So all the agreements, even before 2009, he had knowledge of it. We sat with him, we looked at the document again, and arrived at an understanding with the committee led by Alhaji Ayale Ahmed in December 2024, last year. The document, as we later got to find out, was finally handed over to the Minister of Education in February this year. This is August. We have not heard anything about that agreement. And so, when people talk about 2009 agreement, they need to note that that 2009 agreement had been reviewed by us and government has refused to act on it. And that's why
I need to come in now to put in this one, because it's great to see the background, or at least the backstory to all of this. But just to refresh the minds of Nigerians, let's walk through some of the demands that ASUU is making. Implementation of the 2009 agreement, which you say has been reviewed time and again. So I don't know if it's fair to call it 2009, or we just call it the updated 2009 agreement. There is a release of withheld salaries, payment of outstanding salary arrears, promotion arrears, revitalization of universities. You also reject government's proposed tertiary institutions staff loan scheme and adoption of UTAS over IPIS to preserve university autonomy. So those are some of the demands, or majority of them, as they came through to us. So I want to ask you a double-edged question, Prof. Because some of these issues, yes, I mean, they have lingered for too long. The thinking or the suggestion was that once, for example, the student loan scheme is introduced, the universities will be more liquid. There will be more funding for universities, as such that issues around, salaries and all of that will be a thing of the past. So speak to us if that has moved the needle in any way. That's on the one hand. Secondly, how much of these issues predates this government? How much of them have they made commitments to resolve and they have not resolved?
Honestly, I think it would be fair to say that virtually all the issues preceded this government. And so when we complain, we are complaining about the leadership, the political class in this country, and those that we have elected into office, who have refused to act according to the reasons why we thought they were there to lead us. Number one, let me take this issue of NELFON. From the time NELFON was introduced, we suggested to government that this NELFON, it would be better if you give students or give universities grants. So it is not a loan. If you have the money, why don't you make it grants? Grant because the rate of unemployment in this country is in the ceilings. It is right in the sky. We all know it. There is no household in Nigeria today that does not have at least 2 unemployed persons, either graduates or people who have OND or any form of certification. They have all not been able to get a place. And you are giving loans in an economy that is already depressed, and in an economy that is gasping for breath. And so we said, why don't you make it grants? They said no, they wanted loans. They have started the NELFON. Fine. We hope it succeeds. We hope it succeeds. But the recent developments regarding NELFON, I think it requires that government sit down and look at that program well. I don't know the staff strength of NELFON, but I guess it is not up to 100 because it's just a year. And they don't have offices either in the zones or in the states. So I don't think NELFON has up to 100 staff. Their personnel costs in the last 1 year is 14 billion naira. 14 billion naira. They said it themselves. And you know the challenges in administering the loan, especially the 20,000 naira that students are supposed to have. We don't want to go into that. It's their headache. They want it, and so they have it. But we can continue to look at it and advise them on how best they can ensure that our universities run. And if paying school fees or giving grants to students are ways that we think that could be done, that's okay. So on the issue of NELFON, our position is clear. We do not think loans are what our students need now because the economy does not support that decision. On the other issues that preceded this government and the ones that were created by this government, it is this government that promised us 25-35% salary increase as a result of the removal of subsidy. 1 year, 12 months arrears of that, they are still owing. They have not paid. One of the issues that this government inherited but knew about was this 3.5 months withheld salaries. When we were on strike during the last administration, government withheld our salaries for 8 months. When President Tinubu came into power, he paid us 4 months, and we are very grateful for that. We have thanked him for giving the permission that 4 months be paid. But the 3.5 months is still our legitimate earnings. We came back from strike, we taught students, we examined them, we marked their scripts, we sat in Senate as academic staff, we approved their results. They have made progress in their lives based on that report, that result. They've gone for NYC, some of them are now employed. This is 2022. And why they would not pay us for the money, for us, the work we have done, is what we do not understand. But even while we do not understand it, we are not going to accept it.
So, Prof,
because it is our own.
So, my apologies, Prof. You continue in that line of thought in addition to my question, if you will. So let's put figures to this. Generally, how much are we talking about here? Let's talk about the earnings that you just spoke about, the last one, about 3.5 months that you said, look, it's your legitimate pay. You went to strike, you came back, you did what you should do out of goodwill and good faith. Everybody resumed work, and now your salaries are being owed. If you populate it, maybe an average of how much are we talking about? And every other part of the negotiation or agreement that you're talking about that involves money, how much are we talking about broadly, so that we can put some figure to it and put it side by side with the reality on ground?
Well, let me put the figure to the 3.5 months salary. When we calculated what was outstanding, if the 3.5 months salary was paid to us, it was about 8.3 or 8.5 billion naira for all federal universities across the country. It's about 8.5 billion naira. On the issue of the 35 months salary arrears, I do not have that figure, but I believe that Budget Office or the Office of the Accountant General should know what that 35% translates to. But we do not have the figure for the 35%. I'm sorry about that. But on the 3.5 month salaries, our money amounts to about 8.3 billion naira.
Well, 8.3 billion is small money to the federal government, so one wonders. That's why I needed you to put it so that we understand whether we're talking trillions or millions here. But 8.5.
And let me even add here that even for the 25-35%, from the way government was paying the 25-35%, I don't think they paid that money to civil servants, at in one fell swoop. And so there are many ways I believe they can begin to defray this 35% to show commitment that they are willing to do this thing. But to just keep quiet and tell us that they will do it, they will do it, they will do it, is what led to this protest yesterday. And if they continue to say they will do it, they will do it, they will do it, we will have something more than a protest.
All right, Prof, as we begin to wind down, the reason I needed you to put, I wish you had all the figures. The reason I needed you to put the figures out, so that at least the president will hear in case he's not aware. And I think if the president hears that 8.5 billion is what will make ASUU go on strike, it's just one action and it's done. So I believe, I don't think it's so much of a big money by every stretch of imagination. But in going forward, now all eyes are on ASUU. What happens next? What's the grace period? What's the next line of action?
Well, if nothing happens, we will meet. I cannot say what would happen exactly. We can assume based on our past engagement with government what could happen, but we'll have to wait for our branches. They would decide what would happen next. And once they decide what would happen next, we will meet and take action on what our branches, our congresses have decided. In the last 2.5 years, our congresses have decided that we should embark on a strike action. And the union leadership has held back, thinking that this government, once it has settled, it will address these issues. And we have now reached a point where our members no longer want to give government more chances. They think that we've given them enough chances, enough time to address these issues. And so as soon as our members across branches decide on what action they want us to take, one thing I can assure our members is that once they decide and they tell us what they want, the leadership will not blink. We will carry out exactly what our branches say we'll do. So let's wait and see. But for now, the union had decided on protest. We have embarked on the protest. Once our members decide on what next to do, Nigerians will hear from us.
All right, Prof. Just 10 seconds before we go. So as far as we're concerned now, we know that universities are funded by government. So is the proposal still on the table about university autonomy? In just 10 seconds.
Well, university autonomy is not just financial autonomy. That is where the government usually lays emphasis. Once they hear autonomy, they say, oh, we're paying, giving money, we should do everything. University autonomy includes governance structures in our universities. Okay. Universities work through committees, and these committees need to be protected or grounded in the laws, statutes of our universities. Okay. So autonomy is not just financial autonomy. There are a lot of administrative things that relate to autonomy and academic freedom. And we think that this will not cost government anything at all. If they are serious, they will sign this agreement. Because indeed, the autonomy has been in practice. We just want it back into the agreement so that it will be sustained in the years to come. Because we inherited the autonomy from our leaders in the past. In fact, it's a universal thing.
My apologies. We're totally out of time. We're hoping that it's going to get there. But I think one of the outcome of this conversation is to the effect that that money you mentioned is not anything serious to the federal government. So now that the president has heard it, I'm sure we should be expecting action. I must thank you. Professor Chris Piuna is the president of the Academic Staff Union of Universities. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.